天到底怎么了
Oh yeah, good times, baby. Good times.
President Who? There you are. Why'd you leave me hanging? Let's go. President Who, these are some important friends I'd like you to meet. First, I would like to introduce you to Steve Ballmer. Next here is my Treasury Secretary, Timothy Geithner. And here's my good buddy from Government Sat.
可不可以来个克林顿式的快乐结局啊
Okay, the first question goes to the Associated Press.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Thursday, January 27th, 2011, and I'm Darko. New listeners and even old listeners, please visit my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. Just posted a new poll up there about what issue is most important to you. You can check that out. I've had a decent amount of people already vote on it, and so far it's the unforeseen turbulent future and the economy that is on people's minds right now. So we're going to start off with this first article from Reuters, covers some stocks and commodities and bonds and treasuries, and then we'll move into what some of the elitists say as they were over attending that Davos summit, and then we'll get into the housing sector, soaring food prices, and much, much more. So this will take about 2 videos, so please stick with me through this. I appreciate your support, and I've actually received a few donations this month. I really appreciate it. For those people that have a manual from Chicago, and we have Dana from Pennsylvania, and then we have David from the Carolinas who's donated to GGN, and I just want to say personally I appreciate it. If you'd like to donate, you can either go to ggnonline.com. There's a little PayPal button, or you can go to the link in the video's description. This first article is dollar slips to 11-week low after Fed and stocks. The U.S. dollar slipped on Thursday to 11-week lows, while commodity prices and Asian stocks rose after the U.S. Federal Reserve policymakers voted unanimously like that to maintain a $600 billion bond buying plan to fuel an economic recovery. Next up, gold. Gold is steady. Physical buying seen as slow. Says spot gold prices held steady on Thursday on a slowing physical and fund demand, though cautious economic views on the economy offered by the U.S. Fed lent support. Talking about the euro here, euro clings near 2-month high after a cautious Fed. The euro clung near a 2-month high on Thursday after the Fed showed it was in no rush to scale back its easy policy. Talking about quantitative easing, treasuries tumble as home sales increase before policy statement from Fed. The Dow Jones hits a 12,000 mark for the first time in more than 2 years. So that's big news for the markets. Davos elites see global economic shift east and south. And why is that? Well, because they're the ones that design it to be that way. So that's how it will be. Power in the global economy is shifting from the advanced world to Asia as recovery takes hold, Davos analysis said Wednesday, as political and business elites began their annual meeting. So, and we're going to move on. Here's one of them right here, Mr. Kissinger. China might revalue its currency this year, says Kissinger. And keep moving here. Boeing secures big China order, talking about the $15.6 billion Airbus. And then keep moving here. China's new stealth fighter may use U.S. technology. And there was a subscriber that had sent me some information on this. He was actually proposing this idea, and so this pretty much verifies it, although he's sent me a bunch of different links on that information, and next video or two I'd like to really get into that. But it's all about the global economy right now, so let's just get right back into it. China will face crisis within 5 years, 45% of investors say. Global investors are bracing for the end of China's relentless economic growth, with 45% saying they expect a financial crisis there within 5 years. Davos WEF 2011, George Soros says UK risks slipping back into recession. George Osborne's austerity budget will push the UK back into recession unless the government eases up on spending cuts, billionaire investor George Soros has warned. A hefty price for entry to Davos, and basically this goes into how much it costs to actually get into one of these things. And it said it draws a wide range of decision makers from JP Morgan. So it gets down to brass tacks here, saying that basically $156,000 was the price tag to get into that sucker. And if you have a little entourage with you and like a friend or something, it's about $500,000. IMF says financial stability still at risk. The IMF says failures to impose regulatory reforms and tackle vulnerabilities in the fiscal and banking sectors are putting global financial stability at risk. We have an AP article here. Egyptian stock markets tumble over 5% on protest. And UK, it says here, the UK economy shrinks and pound plunges. It says an unexpected downturn in the British economy shocked investors on Tuesday, prompting a sharp drop in the pound and reigniting debate about the government's plans to slash spending and raise taxes to reduce public debt. 10,000. Maybe they wish it was 10,000. 100,000 British lost their job in only 6 weeks. Unemployment rate rises in 20 states, falls in 15. Job market barely improving even as the economy grows. The unemployment rate rose in 20 states last month as employers in most states shed jobs. And this is where it gets pretty good. Only 47% of working age Americans have full-time jobs. And if you go in here, it says here that you have 139 million people, 58% of the labor force unemployed, 14 million, 6% of the labor force. And it says obviously that can't be the total picture. We're only at 64%. This is why. Part-time employed for economic reasons is 8.9 million, and this concerns people who want a full-time job but can't get one. Part-time employed for non-economic reasons is 18 million. And then if you move down here, it says by the far, the largest category missing from both the employed and unemployed statistics is not in the labor force. That's 85.2 million people. So basically, it says to summarize, 108 million people in America are either unemployed, underemployed, or not in the labor force. This represents 45.5% of the working age Americans. So all the links will be posted as usual. You can go and check that article out. UN says global unemployment remains stubbornly high at 205 million. Next is U.S. home prices slump again, hitting new lows. Next, man, these things are really annoying that pop down like that. New home sales in 2010 fall to lowest in 47 years. Buyers purchased the fewest number of new homes last year on record, going back 47 years. Record numbers here. Falling home prices reveal limits of recovery. U.S. home prices declined in November, falling to new lows in a handful of cities and underscoring that the housing sector is yet to join the nation's broader economic recovery. Press TV, U.S. home prices dipped for the 4th month in a row. A double dip in the U.S. home prices appear to be underway in America's biggest cities, endangering an already fragile economic recovery in the country. And we have second wave of housing bust hammers more cities. A second wave of falling home prices is battering some cities that had escaped the worst of the housing market bust. So said home values are dwindling in nearly every American market. Prices fell in November in all but 20 cities. So churches, they're also on the guillotine. Churches find end is nigh. The number of religious facilities unable to pay their mortgages is surging. And says in 2008, nearly 200 religious facilities have been foreclosed on by banks, up from 8 during the previous 2 years, and virtually none in the decade before that, according to Real Estate and Services. Mortgage regulation to hit home buyers. Home buyers will struggle to get a mortgage if regulation change goes ahead. And if we move down here, it says if the Financial Services Authority implements tighter lending regulations in its mortgage market review, thousands of potential homebuyers will struggle to get a loan. It says here, this news comes as the latest show. As the latest show mortgage lending hit an 11.5-year low in December, according to the British Bankers Association. Homeowners brace for a $200 a month mortgage rise. I mean, that's just crazy. Experts tip steady interest rates of 2010 will last. Variable interest rates tip to rise whole percent. Incomes rising too fast, adding to low inflation, says experts. Home loan borrowers will have to cough up an extra $200 in monthly mortgage repayments by the end of this year or early next, according to lending economic forecaster. Legal bills. Mortgage giants leave legal bills to the taxpayers. How you like that, guys? Since the government took over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, taxpayers have spent more than $160 million defending the mortgage financing companies and their former top execs in civil lawsuits accusing them of fraud. The cost was closely guarded secret until last week when the companies and the regulator produced an accounting at the request of Congress. The bulk of those expenditures, $132 million, went to defend Fannie Mae and its officials in various security suits and government investigations into accounting irregularities that occurred years before the subprime lending crisis erupted. The legal payments show no sign of abating. The Bank of England chief, Mervyn King, says standard of living to plunge at fastest rate since 1920s. Households face the most dramatic squeeze in living standards since the 20s, the governor of Bank of England warned as he reacted to the shock disclosure that the economy was shrinking again. Look at this, Postal Service eyes closing thousands of post offices. And it says here, the U.S. Postal Service plays two roles in America, an agency that keeps rural areas linked to the rest of the nation, and one that loses a lot of money. So, and basically, I have a friend that works there, and he says it's a madhouse. He actually thinks that he theorizes that that the whole postal service is still up and running because it's nothing more than basically an experiment. It's a social experiment that they're carrying out on people. Think about it, man. I mean, in rural areas, you just go to the P.O. box, and there's just so much waste that goes on in the Postal Service. I mean, the actual to-your-door service is really not needed. I mean, you should just go to the post office and pick up your mail. You don't have to have it delivered to your house. And, of course, when they do deliver it to you, it's just mostly junk mail because you can pay your bills online. So, anyways, so CBO is Social Security to begin running permanent deficits this year, not in 2016. Obamacare includes funding of a civilian army. So how do you like that, guys? Pretty interesting. Fraud plagues celebrity-backed global health fund, says a $21.7 billion development fund backed by celebrities and hailed as an alternative to the bureaucracy of the United Nations, sees as much as 2/3 of some grants eaten up by corruption, the AP has learned. So, and I'm sure the UN is a whole lot better, right? Arizona's bid to cut 280,000 people from Medicaid may be followed by other states. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer asked for the U.S. permission to tighten Medicaid eligibility to drop coverage for 280,000 people and slash $541 million in spending, a move other states may follow. Next up, Fed pushes on with $600 billion stimulus on slow growth. Federal Reserve concerned over U.S. job creation. The Federal Reserve kept U.S. interest rates at a record low on Wednesday as the central bank again voices concern that the recovery is not creating enough jobs. You think there, Bernanke? Bernanke gets 66% approval from investors in the poll. Oh, okay, so that's what he's really working for, obviously. So, bankruptcy best for California economy. Says here, though, the U.S. law prohibits states from declaring bankruptcy. It could be California's best option for getting out from under a $25 billion budget deficit, analysis say. I think there's actually a law, or not a law, but legislation being proposed into committee by Newt Gingrich as far as banks being able to file for bankruptcy. So, we could see that in the near future. U.S. budget deficit to hit historic high. The U.S. budget deficit will hit a record-breaking $1.5 trillion this year, due in part to a recent tax cut deal, the CBO says. Update 3, Alberta Premier stepping down as deficit lingers. So I wasn't expecting it to look like this, but anyways, yeah, so he's stepping out. He's just going to jump ship, and that's happening all around the world. These prime ministers and leaders just kind of stepping down kind of goes to show you that something's getting ready to pop off, possibly like more social unrest like in Egypt and Tunisia and that, and all around the world, Algeria, South America in general. It says inflation could have been tipping point for millions without savings. Due to lack of savings, up to 3.7 million Australians won't be able to cope if the cost of living rises. So what happens? More rate increases necessary, says central bank advisor out of China. Food prices rise after record rains. So food prices are set to rise in Colombia due to the combined effects of soaring international prices and local crop losses after 9 months of devastating rains. Government expects food prices to rise 3% in February. Please join me in part 2 of this economic news bulletin. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.